Are we ready to begin, everybody? Okay. All right. Thank you guys for making the time to meet with me this afternoon. As you know, I am finishing up uh, my teacher leader degree, and part of my final project here was that I had to complete a classroom action project and present it to my professional learning community. So, so that's what we're doing today. Is I've brought you all here to present that. So thank you guys for making the time this afternoon to stay late for school so that we can do this. No problem. Okay. So if you will notice the PowerPoint, uh, the first page there gives you a little introduction about me. As you guys know, I am an administrator, part time in the office and part time in the classroom. Uh, Brandy Anderson and I teach, kind of co-teach, if you will, um, different classes for third through eighth grade. And so, in our very small school environment, uh, what we have found is a comfort zone is built with our students, and they become disinterested in what we're teaching because they hear from the same two folks all the time. Um, they don't get excited about what they're doing. Their interest level is not there. And so, as a result, uh, that disinterest in what they're doing causes them to, in our opinion, not perform academically as well as they should. So I decided that my um, action research study would be on increasing student interest in the coursework uh, that I teach. My purpose is, and I'm going to state it as a sentence, the purpose of this study is to investigate methods of increasing student interest in their coursework and thereby increase student learning. So I had several different research uh, places that I checked out and obtained different facts and theories about student interest and what we can do to build that and improve that. So a couple of the quotes, if you'll look over on the literature review PowerPoint, a couple of the quotes that I want to share with you. Uh, One is, for many students, school is a place that makes no sense, a place where students' interests are not reflected in the curriculum. Um, Another, I found several studies on student interest that were useful to my research. I found that experiential, hands on learning, preparation of skills for the future, and existing experiences amongst peers were recommended avenues to perform. Being an older teacher, now in my late 40s and having been in the classroom 20 plus years, I'm sort of old school and I don't do a whole lot of group activities hands on. And we found that this might be something for us to do more of to work on increasing student interest. Um, Another quote that I wanted to share with you is that appropriate humor might also lead to a positive effect toward interest in course material. This was generally with older students and with high school students. So now this page gives you the um, where I got this information, my reference page, and where that stuff come from. This takes me in now to my research question. How can I increase student interest in my classroom and thereby increase student learning. All right, so we're going to talk about why I chose an action project uh, for this particular lesson. Brandy and I talked about it, and we decided that an action project would be a really good place to explore this particular topic because we are in the first semester of a new school year. Uh, we have plenty of time this school year to make some changes, uh, to have time to reflect on what we're seeing, what improvement might be happening. Action research is the best option for us at this time because we have begun a new school year, and while I work is the best time to attempt a change. Um, so the next screen is going to share with you uh, our sample space. So we have 13 students, 3 in the 3rd and 4th grade class, and then 10 students in the 5th through 8th grade. All right, so let's talk about methodology. Students will complete, and this is what they did, students completed an interest survey for both of my subjects being math and history. And after I have fully explained now what the purpose of this, I go ahead and tell the students up front, I'm doing a research project. This is what I'm going after, and to help me kind of meet uh, needs that you have and find things that are of interest to you. I want you to help me by taking this survey on what you're interested in. So I shared all that up front with the students, and they were kind of excited at the thought that they might, get to choose what they do and how they do it. Uh, I recorded student interest during the whole change process and their involvement during the unit that is geared toward the interests of my students. Excuse me. I compared score average of this unit of study with the previous 2 units. So what I did was I took the last 2 units of study that we completed and I found a mean or an average score for those 2 units. And then I got by the same process a mean or an average of the average score in this unit where they had a hand in picking out what was going on. Okay, this screen shows you a sample of the interest survey, the questions that I asked. What is something about math that you would like to know more about? And so then I also gave in parentheses down from that some ideas like money management, things that I thought might identify with middle grade students. Uh, what is your favorite part of United States history? And so then I gave them, some ideas. It was around election time in November when we started this process. And so that was one of the ideas that I gave them. And then what type of projects interest you most? And then I gave them, group work, uh, projects where they do presentations and things like that. This next screen gives you 4 students' completed interest surveys so that you can see kind of a sample of the answers that they gave me, the feedback that I was able to get through that interest survey. So you can see some of their responses there. The next couple of slides are going to be pictures of the change that took place. So in this slide, you'll see that the kids are working as a group. I've got 3 guys working together to complete this. The slide in the middle there is 2 of them giving a presentation. That was a geography presentation that they prepared for history. And then over to the right, you see one of their eighth grade students doing research on a computer in the library. I took notes on how students responded to the unit and their enthusiasm about learning during the unit. The data used for comparison included the average score of our previous two assessments. This is before the interest survey and change, and the average score of the assessment at the end of the unit, where students had a voice in what we did and how we did it. Okay, so let's talk about my notes. Let's talk about what I found. Students had an optimism about our unit of study even before we began. They were excited about this idea of having a voice in how they were going to complete their assignments. Um, I overheard students talking specifically about the fact that they helped choose what they were doing in class. That was really exciting because middle grade students so many times feel like they don't have a choice in what goes on here at school. Students maintained a sense of ownership in the study that we did because they had a voice in it. They were invested in it. This is more of the notes that I took. Um, and I observed students reminding one another of their own leadership throughout the unit. So even when they worked together in groups, if somebody was not participating like they should be, then other members of that student's group kind of encouraged them and boosted them up to move onward. So this next screen is going to show you the score comparison. Uh, Assessment 1, which is the first assessment, and this is before we did any changing or anything, our average score was 83.4%. Assessment 2, still this is before any change, average score 85.2%. And then the unit that included the change that we made was 92.5% for an average. Then you have a little data analysis chart there. I made a little bar graph to kind of show the difference in those means or averages. Okay, this screen is going to give you data analysis in words. I noticed a drastic change, Miss Anderson and I both did, in my students' enthusiasm about the material we studied. The score average increased notably. Students shared that they had retained information because they were invested in the work. Okay, let's talk about next steps and let's talk about what we could do as a professional learning group to maybe see some level of student interest increase across the board. Um, so I'm sharing this. That's part of my next steps is I'm sharing this with you guys. One thing that I'm going to do as we take steps onward from here is I'm going to continue to give my students a voice in the type of projects that we do and the type of focus group. All of us know that we have standards that we have to uh, get them to reach. We have certain things we have to accomplish, but there is some flexibility there with how we present it, with how we allow them to uh, um, a- achieve those goals. So I want to share with you that I think it's a good idea to be open to new situations in our classrooms. Lastly, I will seek out professional development opportunities for us as a group uh, that deal with continuing to improve our student involvement. So, in my reflection, or lastly, as we sort of wrap up uh, my action research project, I want to say this: the boys, especially, were really excited to feel that they were talking about real world things. We were able to take those standards that I mentioned a few minutes ago that we all know we have to meet, and we were able to turn that into things of great interest to the students. Uh, we were able to make school become not as much a punishment, but more an activity that they wanted to be involved in. So I just, wanted to share all that with you. Now, does anybody have any thoughts or any questions about that as we move ahead?